All right. Hey everyone. This is Jacob, your friendly neighborhood TA, and this is the first part of a video series that I'm going to make that just helps guide you through the data analytics part of the term project. Okay, so hopefully by now you've sent out your survey with your final items that have good CVR scores, and you're ready to, gather all that data and do some analysis on it to make sure that it's a psychometrically sound test. So right here, I just have my survey opened up. This is the survey that I sent out when I took this class about 2 years ago now. And this is essentially the page that defaults when you click on the tab for your survey. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to data and analysis up here on the top left. And it might take a moment to load. That's totally fine. Just need to be a little patient with these old computers. One thing that I should mention is that we should all be doing this in a computer on campus, such as the computers that you've been working on in the basement of the Kimball, or any other computer on campus that has access to SPSS, which is the statistical software that we're going to be using to actually analyze our data. So with that out of the way, we should be at this data analysis website, and we're going to click on export and import right here. Now there's going to be some options in the drop-down menu, but we're going to export our data. What we want to do is we want to actually extract our survey results into a file. Now there's a lot of options here. There's CSV, TSV. I think when we did our CVRs calculations, we used CSV. We're actually going to click on SPSS right here. And this is because we're going to use SPSS, which is the Statistical Package for Social Sciences, SPSS. It's a software that we're going to use to analyze our data. So make sure you click on that. Yes, we're downloading all fields, so keep that button checked, and we're going to hit download. And usually in a few moments, usually a couple seconds, you should get a file up in the top in your downloads that is a zip folder that contains your .sav file. So we're going to open this. Just click on it. And then we now have our file that's been converted to a file format that is fit to be analyzed by SPSS. So we're just going to double click on it, and that will open up SPSS. And so you'll know that it's doing that when you have this sigma in the middle. And it might take a few moments to load up. And we're just going to close this right here. And there, I'm just going to make it full screen now. Now we have a full data view. Okay, they are very, very annoying right now, but that's fine. So now we have a view of our data in SPSS, the statistical software. Okay, so now we have a lot of things to look at here. There's things that you can do to the file. There's ways you can analyze the data that you have right now already. What we're going to do is we're just going to click on the variable view right here. Now, when it comes to actually renaming the variables, because as it is right now, we just have A1, A1.1, A1.2, A1.3, and so forth. These aren't really interpretable by our standards, right? We want to be able to identify the items that we have as a way to streamline our analysis, okay? So what we're going to do here is we're just going to clear all of this because this is just junk. I'm not sure if you can clear it, but let me see if I can try. This is just information that you get from your participants when you when they actually do the response, and it records things like their IP address and how long it took for them to take the survey. We're not really interested in any of that, so we can just highlight all these rows and we can just hit backspace, and that should delete all of those rows for us. Okay. And so now we have the label here, which is what the prompts were when we gave the study. And this is how SPSS or qualtrics interpreted the name of the variable. And so what we're going to do is we're actually just going to rename these variables right now. We're going to say that this is age because this is the age variable. This is sex, and I'm just going to call this ethnic. And then now these are the actual items. As you may have noticed, we did not, when I took the class, did not have a 10 item limit. So I actually have 30 items in here, but we're just going to proceed as if it was 10 items. And so I'm actually going to clear a couple things if you could just bear with me for a moment. All right, so on second thought, I think it's going to be completely fine if we just move on with what we have. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to look at the items themselves, and we're just going to relabel them in the name column using just certain identifiers in the item. So I'm going to call this smartest. We can move on. Educated, um, top class, slow learn, understand, smart, say smart. And now when you hit items that are negatively worded, we're going to identify them with a letter N as to say that this is a negatively worded item. Okay. Okay. This is also negatively worded. Um, the way I structured it, they are kind of in order. And then And for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to clear these items just for the sake of the, what's it called? The tutorial that I'm doing. Okay, so we have now an even amount of items that are positively worded and items that are negatively worded. Okay, so now that we have identified the items that are negatively worded, what we need to do is we need to do what's called a reverse score, or doing a transformation on the data so that it is able to it's able to be fit for statistical analyses. So now what we're going to do is we're going to transform our data. So at the top here, we're going to click on transform. And then we're going to recode into different variables here. And the items that we're interested are the ones that have the negatively worded items. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's try this. Okay, so it starts at here. I'm just gonna highlight these. And the way I did that was I just clicked on it, I held shift on the keyboard, and then I just pressed down on the D-pad. And then it highlights all of them. And then now I have these numeric variables and I want to create an output variable. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the beginning and we're going to click on this old and new values. Now, the way I structured my test was that I used a 5-point Likert scale. And generally, a 5 meant that you agreed or strongly agreed with the prompt that was given to you. And 1 was that you strongly disagreed with the prompt that was given to you. And so when you have negatively worded items, you can quickly see how that becomes problematic for your analysis. Sometimes if you're doing a bivariate correlation matrix between your items, it can turn out with funky results, and that's because you haven't recoded your items. Okay, so for the purposes of this, I'm going to recode 5 into 1, and I'm going to hit add. Now 4 is also going to be 2, and I'm going to hit add. 3 is going to stay the same, but we still need to add this because if we don't, then it's going to mess up with our data and it's going to become unanalyzable. And we're just going to go 4 is now going to become, sorry, 2 is now going to become 4. And then 5 is now going to become 1. We're going to add that. Oh, sorry. I'm getting a little confused here. 1 is going to be 5. So 5 becomes 1, 4 becomes 2, 3 stays the same, 2 becomes 4, and 1 becomes 5. Now, as some of you might know, Some some groups only have a 4-point Likert scale. The process still stays the same. It's just now you're not going to recode 3 into anything. So it would just be 4 turns into 1, 2 turns into 3. Oh, I did that wrong. 3 turns into 2. 2 turns into 3. And then 1 becomes 4. And the same process goes if you use, say, a 6-point or a 7-point Likert scale. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly zoom past these things. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5 becomes 1, 4 becomes 2, 3 becomes 3, 2 becomes 4, and 1 becomes 5. Okay, so now once you have these rows or this column of old to new, we're going to hit continue. And so essentially, it's going to apply this function that we've created to all of these new variables or these negatively worded variables that we're going to recode. And so now I'm just going to rename them. So I'm going to say smart. Now I'm going to say P. And I'm just going to make the label the exact same thing, just for simplicity. The reason I put P is that now this is a positively coded item instead of a negatively worded item. You can really use any naming scheme you want. Just make sure that you're able to differentiate between the negatively worded items and the positively coded items. And once you're done with that, we're just going to hit change. And so that's going to now say we're applying these functions that we've created, and now we're going to rename that variable into a different variable called say smart P. And now the same thing is going to be done to all of the other variables in the data set. Okay, now once you have that done, you're ready to click OK. And now what you've done is you've created uh, a bunch of new variables that are numeric and are now positively worded, or positively coded, I should say. You can go into data view and make sure that you have those values right there. And as you should see, there are all the values. Now let's go back to variable view, and we're just going to change the measure of these items right here. We're just going to call them a scale instead of a nominal. Okay, now that we've done all that, we're actually now all ready to do our analysis and, you know, have some actual fun with the data, so to speak. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next video in the series where we're going to do some preliminary descriptive statistics with our items and actually do factor analysis to see the latent structure of these items. Thanks.